Good evening,
Okay.
everyone, and welcome to the fourth Auxiliary Markings Club Zoom meeting. Tonight, we're going to have a show and tell, which is always fun because you never really know what's going to come, and that's very exciting. Um, we're glad you're here, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching on our YouTube channel. If you don't know about the Auxiliary Markings Club and you love auxiliary markings, then we encourage you to have a look at our website. We consider ourselves to be the very best deal in town. $15 for a digital membership, and it's a really great group. So we would love to have you if you're inclined to come. We're going to start off tonight with our former president, Ralph, who's going to tell us about a really interesting collection of markings that he's found. So just let me pull this up, Ralph, and then we'll be good to go. Hang on just a second. Here we go. Okay, great. So 1 second. There we go. Okay. So do you wanted to say a few things first, Ralph, and then I'll go to your first slide?
Yeah, that'll be fine. Um, I just wanted to mention, probably most of you know that the PIPEC show is this coming weekend, and it's dedicated to the late Tony W., who passed away last year, as probably most of you know. He was very active in all, all aspects of auxiliary markings. He edited the journal for the newsletter for, I guess, almost 20 years. He was also very active in the Pipex show. He was chairman of the show for several years and was as exhibits chair. And what I'm leading up to is that every cover I'm going to show tonight came from his collection. So we're kind of dedicating a little bit, all of this to his memory. Okay, we can start now with the covers. Oh, yeah, okay. This is the first one. The entire auxiliary marking is up in the, can I point to these things? I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. Is up in the upper right corner. Uh, this particular serrated, oops, that's the next one. This particular serrated postcard um, has no stamp on it, no indication of uh, where it came from, although it probably came from Phoenix, Arizona, because that's the picture on the other side, which I don't show. But in any case, it was addressed to St. Johnsburg of Vermont.
Ralph,
Yeah.
Ralph, I made you a co-host, so you should be able to move your mouse now. You might have to
Oh,
accept it, but
yeah, I can move it.
okay. I don't know if we can see it
Is
or
that
not.
is that going to work? I guess.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, because this uh, addressee was not there, uh, it was open. It was sent back and opened at the dead letter office in San Francisco. Uh, and it indicates the auxiliary marking indicates there's no return address and that the forwarding postage due was 19 cents. Well, they didn't have a auxiliary markings that said 19 cents, so they used the next closest one, which was 20 cents, and crossed it out and marked it 19. Now, where did we get the 19 cents? The You can break it down several ways, but the way I broke it down was it's probably 9 cents postage for the postcard, and that rate was effective from December 31st, 1975 to May 28th, 1978. So that narrows it down in terms of dates, but it doesn't give us the exact date for the card. And then the other 10 cents was a handling fee. And the post office uh, used a handling fee for all sorts of different reasons. And it varied in terms of how much it was. I suspect that the handling fee was applied to this cover because it had to be returned and extra service had to be given to the card, or it might be because the card was serrated and couldn't be handled in their normal machinery, I guess. So it was kind of an interesting uh, auxiliary markings. Next cover. Next cover. Oh, there it is. No, not that one. Go back one. Yeah, I'm sorry. Uh, Here is someone who tried to use a pre-barcoded envelope to mail something. I don't know where it went because it was a window envelope and with a barcode on it. And obviously the barcode that was on it was not where the addressee was, probably. And so somebody crossed out the barcode, and I thought it was kind of an interesting auxiliary marking. It was delayed because of improper use of a pre-barcoded envelope. It was actually mailed from Salinas, California on October 30th, 1990. And the 25-cent rate was effective from April 3rd. That's a 25-cent stamp on there. From April 3rd, 1988 to February 2nd, 1991. So that was the period where this was canceled and mailed. Presumably it got delivered. Okay, next one. Here's a business reply card that was not that was returned to the writer because the permit for the card had expired. It was canceled, and so it couldn't go anywhere. And I guess I'd never seen one before quite like this. Some of you probably have. It was mailed from Charleston, South Carolina on July 14th, 1986, and addressed to Woodside, New York. There's some routing letters on the back that I'm not showing. Someone requested membership in the Paragon Doll Collectors Club. That was what was on the reverse of this, which I'm not showing also.
So, Ralph,
Yeah.
I have a question. It would appear that Paragon Needlecraft sent this out to somebody. Somebody replies, but the permit has been canceled. So who are they returning it to? There's no return address.
Well, they were returning it to the Paragon Needlecraft Company in Woodside, New York.
Why would they return it if they don't have the, well, it doesn't look, I'm just a little puzzled because under normal circumstances, it would go back to Paragon because they have a permit. But here, they don't have, their permit's expired.
Yeah, right.
But why do they get the privilege of getting their mail back? I mean,
Well,
I'm just a little puzzled, but it's fine. I've never seen a marking like this before.
Well, I never had either. That's why I put it in here.
It's a great marking.
Yeah, most of these markings are. Tony knew how to collect auxiliary markings. That's for sure. He was always digging through boxes looking for them. And I had the privilege of sitting next to him at several shows looking for auxiliary markings. So, and he usually found something. Pardon?
I'm thinking by rights it should have been postage due. It was
well, yes.
They can still deliver it to Paragon. They just need their postage plus a fee.
That's right. But I didn't see any evidence of postage due on this card. It was just returned to the sender. Whoever it was, I don't know. There was no return address on it. Well, it probably was on the other part of it, but I'm not sure. There are parts missing here, and I guess that's what makes for the confusion. Anyway, next, please. This is an interesting cover. It has 20 cents postage on it. It's addressed to John D. Rockefeller, Esquire, when he was president of Standard Oil. It was canceled in New York on July 11th, 1895, and it was mailed in New York. It was a registered letter. It was the 2 cent postage for first class mail in those days, plus 18 cents registry fee for no indemnity.
8 cents.
And this one, I don't know what it says. Refused over here. There's also a refused marking on the right side, which is partially cut off. But I don't know what the AR-12 means under the refused. Anyway, either John D. or somebody in his office refused to accept this mailing, whatever it was. I'm not sure also about the significance of these 5-digit numbers. There are 3 of them on the cover here. Maybe somebody can enlighten me about that. Next slide.
I was just going to say before we go ahead, because I'm an organist by trade, and
Oh, okay.
so rare that you actually get to talk about the organ ever. My grandfather was one of the house organists for John D. Rockefeller.
Oh,
And
really?
he used to play for him for dinner, and every time he left, John D. Rockefeller would give him my uncle had just been born, his first child, would give him a brand new silver dollar every time he left. So, yeah. Anyway,
Well, I understood that John D. Rockefeller gave out silver dollars to a lot of people.
a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next slide. Here's the back of this cover. And this is it's a registered cover, but normally on a registered cover, the cancel that seals it is usually a double ring cancel with the post office name and the date on it. This is what I call a donut, and it seals the envelope. It ties the flap with the envelope, and I had never seen one of these before. And it doesn't give you much information. It's looks pretty mute to me, but that's what was on the back of this cover, which in itself I thought was pretty interesting. Okay, next. Yeah, the right side of these covers are kind of, at least in my image here, are cut off by the pictures of us. So you can't really see the stamp, but it's a 22-cent love stamp. And my question was on this cover, it was returned for postage, even though 22 cents was a legitimate rate at that time period. And it was void as being uncancelable. I can't pronounce that hardly. I assume the stamp was void, but I don't understand why. It was canceled in Phoenix on August 10th, 1987, and then canceled again in Phoenix on August 15th. Glendale, by the way, the return address is a suburb of Phoenix. So I had a question about this one: is why was it uncancelable? Couldn't cancel it. If anybody has any idea, I'd be happy to hear about it.
Ralph?
Yeah,
Was the love stamp put on secondary? Maybe it went out without any postage to begin with and
that's
came back,
possible.
or
Yeah, it could be, because it does say return for postage. And it might have not had postage the first time.
I'm looking at the cancel, and it looks to me like if you look in the top left corner of the love stamp, that cancellation mark ends before the stamp, suggesting at the very top of the love stamp on the left,
Yeah.
suggesting that there was something behind it originally. I'm
Yes,
thinking there was somebody put on a small stamp with Scotch tape. The Scotch tape made it uncancelable and, of course, not legal.
Yeah,
Usually it says, tape or that kind of thing is usually the message. But if it
Yeah.
was void, they then returned it and it got new stamp and an additional postmark.
emailed it. Yeah, that sounds like a plausible explanation. But I'd never seen the uncancelable. It's hard for me to pronounce that, I guess. That particular marking before. Okay, we can go on to the next one. All right, this is a picture postcard that was canceled in Elmhurst, California in 1910. And this was the card was returned because it was unable to be delivered because the postal delivery person probably ran out of time. I've seen these before, and the problem with them is you don't know whether they were finally delivered. At least I don't in this case. It was sent to Petaluma, California, so it wasn't going very long distance particularly. But I have seen other versions of this same type of auxiliary marking, different wording and so forth, but never quite this version. Okay, next. Here's one that lost its stamp somewhere along the way. It went to New York and it had some stamp on it before. The imprime here means printed matter, but usually you don't find that on postcard. And I don't know what this ARADINE means. I don't know whether that's part of the address or what it is. There obviously wasn't much of a message on it.
Ralph, I think the imprimatur rate allowed for you to write up to 5 words on the left-hand side of the card and still get the imprimatur, the printed matter rate. So I think that's probably just a signature, which is pretty common in the day. But I think it clearly comes from somewhere, I would think, in Europe. So that would probably explain that.
Yeah, my guess was
like
Europe.
It might be Dutch.
Yeah, I think
Look
so.
at how they spelled United States. It kind of looks like it might be Dutch.
Yeah.
That's possible, yeah. Anyway, the other part of it is the auxiliary marking, which says disposed of. So since there was no return address, I assume the post office just discarded it. I had never seen that particular marking before either. Okay, next. Here's a envelope with 53-cent cents postage on it. It was certified with a return receipt requested, but the problem was it was addressed to an address that was outside of the city limits of Portland, Oregon. I suspect it was one of the eastern suburbs, and the reason I think it probably was a suburb was because it has a 5-digit address number on it, which means it was out quite a ways from the center of the city. So it was returned for a better address, but I don't think it was ever sent anywhere. Next slide. Yeah, on the back of it is a return receipt that it wasn't filled out, except for the certified mail number. So I gather it probably wasn't resent, regardless of what the auxiliary markings said. Okay, next one. Here's an interesting cover. Castles in San Jose, California, sent to a town in Israel. And it was a return to sender because the Postal Service was temporarily suspended in Israel. This was the time of the War of 1978, among many wars that Israel fought. And it eventually turned into the War of 1982. And it lasted for several years. Again, one of the many, many wars that Israel fought along the way. So I've seen these before, and it's relatively common. Pardon? Oh, okay. Next, please. This is a a postal or postcard that was canceled in Los Angeles on March 25th, 1910. Can't see the year, but it was unmailable. There was space on this card which is cut off for somebody to put a return address on it, but there was no address there, the full card. But it was sent to Toronto, Ontario, and since there was no return address, it was sent to the dead letter office, presumably back in Los Angeles. It would be my guess. And I don't know what happened to it there. But okay, next. And here you can't really see it, but back in the 60s, you could not put an airmail stamp on a regular envelope. It had to be put on an airmail envelope. So the auxiliary marking says that airmail envelope, or I mean, I was to say airmail envelope is not good for regular mail. So they considered this regular mail, and hence postage due. And then the next cover shows just the opposite, where a regular mail stamp has been put on an airmail envelope, and you could not use a regular mail stamp on an airmail envelope. It had to go airmail. So as a result, the postage due was 3 cents on this particular cover. So it's kind of the obverse of the other previous cover. Okay, next. And this is a cover that was addressed probably to an office building, and the cover got stuck in the mail chute in the building. And it's probably had a number of different offices, and one of the offices to which it was addressed, but this is a window envelope, so we don't know who it was addressed to, had their own receiving stamp, which they marked on there. But I like these oddball auxiliary markings like stuck in building, mail chute. You don't see these too often, but you do see them. Okay, next.
Ralph,
Yeah.
on that one, I know that's something John Hoshner loves to study. And it seems to me, isn't it the other way around, that you're in the Empire State Building, you mail a letter, you stick it in the chute that goes down the building to the receptacle, and it gets stuck there. So it's stuck in the outgoing mail, not the
Yeah.
incoming mail.
No,
And
that's true. Yeah.
And so then the Postal Service puts the mark on, because when they finally unjam the system and get 3 weeks worth of outgoing mail, they're attributing the delay in delivery to the fact that it never got out of the building.
Yeah. That's probably true. Yeah. Okay, next one. That's
That's
not.
first up to me.
Yeah,
Hi,
I think.
Ellen.
Yeah, that's my last one. This is a grease stamp mailed from, or a cover, or a postcard mailed from Crete. And when it was addressed to Seattle. When it got to Seattle, they marked it not canceled. The stamps were not canceled. But somebody actually did put a cancel, probably in Seattle, on the stamp. But it was a partial cancel. It's just the bottom of a CDS. And I'm not sure how useful that auxiliary marking is. But nevertheless, it's one that's I've seen before, but not very many of them. Anyway, those are just an example of some of the auxiliary markings that Tony collected.
That's great. Thank you, Ralph. And apologies. I'm sure everybody was looking at the covers and not at the little circle on the left-hand side with your name. But one of my students uploaded these, and the first 4 or 5 spell your name wrong. So I apologize. They got it right at the end. So progress, not perfection.
Well, I appreciate your help
Sure.
along the way there, Greg.
Well, fascinating stuff. Thank you. Jim, do you want to go next since I've got you
Yeah.
loaded? Okay,
Yeah, works for me.
hang on just a second here. Okay.
Yeah, my name's Jim Peterson. It's SEN actually, but no big deal.
Darn.
I got roped into being the president of the Iowa Postal History Society, and I think I'm going to be president for life. So my collecting interests are mainly Iowa postal history covers and um, and their uses. And now this one, this first one is rather interesting because um, it was the original. Okay, let me grab a sheet here real quick. When I bought it, the person was able to um, give me a little bit of information on this, but it looks like somebody at the Shamrock Hotel really wanted to get a hold of this Willard Popke because they had return receipt requested showing the address where delivered to the addressee only. It was registered, and they broke down the postage. There's 84 cents of postage there. And now this is the information that was supplied to me, so I'm assuming it's accurate. It said the registry fee was 30 cents. The return receipt showing address where delivered was 31 cents. Delivery to the restricted to the addressee only was 20 cents. And then the first class postage was 3 cents for a total of 84 cents. But I just like all the different markings on there. That was what really struck my eye. And it's if you this one that doesn't, it said let me look at the original cover here. Reason for non-delivery unclaimed, and then they point to 733 South 38th, wherever that is. I'm assuming maybe in Milwaukee. The transit history, which came with this too, said it was originally mailed from Cedar Rapids, and there's all these different registered mark hand stamps on the back, and I was able to confirm this. It was mailed from Cedar Rapids on 3/23/1955. It arrived in Dubuque on 3/24 and was forwarded the same day to Monroe, Wisconsin, which is down here. Down here. And then it was forwarded to Milwaukee on 3/25. They attempted delivery to 737 South 38th Street, Milwaukee on 3/26/55. The article was refused by the addressee and then sent back to Dubuque, where it arrived on 3/30/1955. But I just enjoyed all the different markings on there. I mean, like, I don't know what Willard Popke did, but apparently he didn't. They really wanted to get a hold of this guy, and they never did because it wound up going back to the Shamrock Hotel. Next slide. This one was really interesting again. First and foremost, they have all these different markings. Duty performed with special delivery. It was time delivered. They had 10:18 a.m. Reason for non-delivery, they had moved. Now, I'm not sure what that marking is right here. If this is, it looks like it could be lettering of some sort, but if it is, I can't read it. Read it. The next one had, and so they did, and there is this one says second trial. It's stamped it twice. So apparently, I'm guessing they went out again. It was special delivery. This time they had time tried was 4/27. Reason for non-delivery, I can't really make out for sure what that said. And then this line says messenger, but there's nothing there. So I'm not sure. Does anybody have any idea what that might mean? I don't know.
I'm guessing that the fourth line on both of those rubber stamps is messenger, and the upper one where it said #2 maybe 3-2 or something.
Okay.
Probably the letter carrier is endorsing it to take accountability.
Okay,
That, they say it was special delivery 1018, person moved, they put their identifier on it so somebody can check back with them.
okay,
And,
okay, thanks, Doug. That
and it
makes
might
sense.
be 12 down below for messenger, or is that a
Yeah,
price?
yeah, oh, yeah, there you go, yeah, 12, yeah. That's it. But now what's most interesting about this is that the person it was going to, or J.A. Budlong and Company, um, had been around Chicago for quite a while. They grew for a while. They grew their own cucumbers and then pickled them and sold them nationwide. They also grew onions, and I can't remember. There was several other different things, but they'd been in the Chicago area going back into the 1800s. So why it never got to somebody, or maybe it did get to somebody on the second trial. Um, that's kind of interesting, I guess. I didn't see any return to writers, so but
And this was mailed from a hospital.
yeah, in Fort Dodge, and so I'm not sure whether they're going to want pickles or for the patients or what was going on there. So, but that was I just like that one just because of all the why they couldn't get this, why there wasn't somebody at the offices there at 10:18 a.m. but it said moved. Where did they move to? And then again, um, the second one, that one doesn't look like it. I haven't been able to make that one out, and it doesn't look like it says moved, but it says maybe it was not. No, it said not there, not there. So, but it seemed like there'd be somebody around the um, pickle manufacturing company there. Like both of those would be at my guess would be normal business hours. So there you go. Next slide. Yeah, this was kind of interesting. It was going to Mrs. W.F. Tresmer, care of the American Consulate General in Yokohama, Japan, but had a return to sender not called for, forwarding. Let's see, let me get this out real quick. Forwarding address unknown to American Consulate, Yokohama, Japan. And up here it said, if not called for in 10 days, forward to Dorchester, England. And I had a friend of a friend who said the Japanese characters here, and I'm assuming maybe they were applied by the Postal Service. The first one said would read, I don't know how to pronounce the Japanese word, but was like this was going to England, and the first character was deleted and replaced by the next one that said going to USA, and that will show up when we look at the back. In fact, let's go to the back side of this cover. After 20, now here it says after 20 days return to W.F. Tesmer, Eldora, Iowa, United States. So I'm thinking that's where they wound up returning it. And you got the American Consulate, October 14th, 1937, Yokohama, Japan. Go back to the first one. And it was originally left Eldora on September 23rd, 11 a.m. from Eldora. And this what looks like QTO, the person that said it probably actually meant please turn over, which then was their indication that it shouldn't be going to England, it should be going back to the United States. And that's it just struck me as kind of an interesting cover, because I don't have too many things from um, going to Japan from Iowa. And this one said, actually, this one says 10 days forward to Dorchester. I'm wondering if that was also, if Mr. W.F. Tresmer was in Dorchester at that time, but then go back to the backside again. But then he said after decided he was heading for home, so he said, go ahead and return to Eldora. And it says it was received in Eldora on December 24th, 1937. So, and you got a partial Yokohama strike up there. I don't know what this mark is. But, and I did come across one other thing here. I don't know whether you can see it on here. Yeah, it doesn't show up very well. I just pulled this one out just before we got here, but it's a cover from DeWitt, Iowa, going to a Mr. Kermar Kolshammer, and it just had Chicago, Illinois. But then down at the bottom, he has last year lived at 333 Johnson Street, but moved. So a lot of help that is. But it has, there's an auxiliary market. It says delivery delayed for directory service address completed at post office number 10. And then there's also directory service given at Douglas Park, Illinois. And on this side here, right here, there's a marking that said not claimed W3808. And but then on the very bottom, and I don't know how it'll show up down here. There's another one that said not claimed S1422, whatever that means. And then there's also the one in the middle here that says impossible number. So I guess whoever is trying to get it through, maybe they tried that 333 Johnson Street, but that didn't work, and that was stamped impossible number. But if anybody has any thoughts on that one, I'd be interested to know about it too. So there you go. That's my contribution for tonight.
That's great, Jim. Thanks very much. Wow, that consulate, the Japanese cover is very cool.
Thank you.
Very interesting. I was thinking to myself, since it has a Virginia Dare stamp on it, I bet Mark Schwartz would like to see that. Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting cover going to Japan. So anyway, okay, I'm just going to.
I'll send the scan to him.
Yeah, you should. You should.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll go ahead quickly with mine. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but since I'm loaded up here. This is a 1902 Germania postcard from Berlin to Finland when Finland was still part of Russia. And I'm sure you've gotten very tired of listening to me talk about Belgian UPU return labels. This particular one is an actual Finnish return label, or a Russian return label via Finland. That's actually very rare, and there's nothing particularly remarkable about the card. What's interesting, of course, is each country had to decide whether they were going to use the French. In this case, it means unknown. Inconnu means unknown, and whether they were going to include a local language as well, so that the local post office could read it. But everything I could find out says that at the turn of the century, because of the Cyrillic alphabet, both Russia and its properties decided they were just going to go with the French, because French was spoken by the intellectual elite in Russia, and that the Cyrillic alphabet would not have been actually of use to anybody except people locally. So it's a cool cover. I love it's the only Finnish return label that I have. I haven't done a lot of work on this. I just got this this cover, and it's the kind of cover that I love. This is about as dirty a cover as you can get. It's a 1932 cover from Turkey, registered cover from Turkey to France, but it was rerouted 6 times. And as you know, I collect all of these UPU markings, whether they're manuscript or hand stamps or labels, like the preceding Inconnu marking. This one has 6 different unknown markings on it, and it's really quite remarkable. I might do an article on this for the journal or the newsletter.
Hey, Greg, any idea what the 321 marking in the lower right-hand corner? There are 2 different kinds of 321 markings there on the reverse, the lower right corner. Any idea what those refer to?
My sense is it's one of 2 things. It's either a receiving mark, or it could be, depending on the size of the initial post office, it could be a postman's mark. The post office in Belgium for a while, and of course the whole Belgian system comes from France via the occupation of Belgium. They would very often have in a city, whichever post office, say in this case, post office number 3 in Ghent, carrier number 21. So it was possible to trace who had carried the mail and make sure that it was handled correctly. But I haven't gotten deep enough into this yet to know, but I would think it's one or the other of those 2 things.
Yeah, because one is round and another is oval, but they have the same number within them. And that's kind of interesting.
It is. Yeah, it is very much. Let me get back to you on that, okay? Okay. This is I love this cover. I've never seen this marking anywhere except on this cover, at least from coming from Belgium. It's an airmail cover to Mogadishu from Brussels, but clearly you can't just put on a massive city like Mogadishu, even at this time, post restant and expect it to get there. So I find this a really fascinating and unusual marking.
Greg,
Yeah.
with it saying destination unknown, isn't the problem that they didn't put the country?
Right.
Yeah,
And
probably.
because post restant is unambiguous in a city, if you say post restant or here general delivery, it would go to the main post office in that city.
Yeah.
And so I think what happened was that the clerk sorting it didn't, and I must say I've forgotten where Mogadishu is myself, so I probably would do the same.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually, you're probably right about that. Probably right about that. Yeah.
Do you know what country it is?
Isn't it Somalia?
Somalia, yeah, it's Somalia.
Right.
Yeah.
It's on the
And-
news a lot, and I couldn't place where.
Yeah, for sure. And since it wasn't one of those places that was held by King Leopold II, nobody was particularly interested in it. But yeah, I'm sure it wasn't well known, and at that point. This is a really interesting cover. Again, I love hand stamps, and this has a whack of them on it. The return hand stamp is not particularly unusual in any way. And by 1965, the marking on the right, which means street unknown, had also been kind of common. Originally, of course, it was just in Inconnu for unknown. But what is unusual, and I've never seen this hand stamp anywhere else, is the one on the left. And following the French system, if a piece of mail wasn't able to be delivered, the postmaster, when the mail was being sorted after it had been returned, would read out the name and the address to the assembled postal carriers to see if anybody recognized it. And this is the hand stamp that basically went on, unknown at the reading out at Brussels. But this is first of all, a really large hand stamp, but second of all, one I've never seen before. Those start to appear in the late 1800s in Belgium, and they're usually kind of they're script and a beautiful kind of hand stamp. This is a more utilitarian one, but very unusual, I think. And then again, every once in a while you find an outlier. This postcard was originally to go to Italy, and the Italians decided they weren't going to follow the procedure of having labels made which were specific to reasons it wasn't claimed or it was refused or whatever. So they created this label, which basically said it should be returned to the following person because of the following reason. And these are really fascinating to collect. There are, I think, 10 or 12 different ones, but they come with all kinds of different manuscript markings on them, many of which you won't find on labels. They can be really pricey, but this one was quite reasonable, and it was returned, of course, because it hadn't been claimed. And this is the last one. There's nothing particularly distinguished about this. Again, you can see it's an express envelope, 1946, that was delivered to an address in the Schaerbeek is a kind of neighborhood in Brussels that had its own post office. But what's fascinating about this cover is this is post World War II. And the Belgian postal authority was not quite in the bad shape that it was after World War One, but it took a while for things to recover. And this is very clearly an auxiliary label on the bottom left-hand corner that they didn't have an official copy for, and so it's just simply typed on a label and posted on. And again, I'm sure there must be others, but I've never seen one beyond this. Okay, I think that's it for me. Great. So would anybody else like to share something?
Yeah, I've got something.
Sure. Okay. Go ahead, Stefan, and then we'll go to you, Roger.
You
Okay.
can let me share the screen.
Will it let you? Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think it will. What's happening here?
Yeah, good.
Oh, okay, and I'll open that up. Hopefully it'll open up. Yeah, so this is a really interesting thing. So background in this is I collect Ithaca, New York postal history, among several different topics. So obviously auxiliary markings come into play here. This one I just got off eBay, lottery mail. And what's interesting is some of the history behind this, and of course, return to sender. See if I can do this without closing things up. Okay, so there's a letter inside. Whoop, there's some of my Civil War stuff. I also collect that. There we go. Okay, so a little more interesting. So this is from evidently a Cornell student by the return address. And this is from 1961. I have just checked up on my salesmen and have found that they have been selling pens for which I have not received any checks from you. So far, I've received only 75 cents worth of checks, and yet I have sold 5 pens to Mike somebody, who sold at least one to Steve Finkelstein, who has sold 3 of his, 5 pens, etc., etc. Really, absolutely fascinating. I'm thinking this is some sort of scheme, and it turns out, yes, this I found. Oh, let's see if I can do this. Okay, so this is in the Postal Service records, POD docket number 235, 10 Penn Sales Corporation. And the cover is addressed to this Mr. Ziegler in St. Petersburg, Florida. And basically, he had sort of a money-making scheme. Let's close this up. Basically, the Postal Service issued a fraud lottery order, impounding the mail and setting a time and place, for a hearing on April 19th. Let's see the story on this. In this case, appellant operates a sales plan set out in a contract which requires the buyer to purchase 1 pen at $1 to be used as a sample. He must then purchase 5 pens at $1 each, which he should sell to 5 others. Each of the 5 receives an order blank and a contract. Each of the 5 sells 5 others, and so on. It's a Ponzi scheme, so to speak. There is a commission scale that is broken down, etc., etc. As the plan is set up, it would appear there's no limit to the amount of commissions a buyer may receive. Just a glance on the back of Exhibit C and Exhibit G, which unfortunately aren't with the documentation on the Postal Service website, will indicate the limitless extent of the plan. Exhibit B2 presents the potential earnings of $24,000 and change that can be made from continuing sales of units of 5. There was a hearing, and so this is again their definition. A typical lottery, referring to that stamp on the cover, is a scheme in which tickets are sold and prizes are awarded among the ticket holders by lot. See Stone versus Mississippi, etc. A typical gift enterprise differs from this in that it involves the purchase of merchandise or other property. The purchaser receives, in addition to the merchandise or other property, a free chance in a drawing, and so on and so on. And so they had a hearing, and Mr. Ziegler actually went before the Postal Service with a lawyer. This goes on. In the hearing of April 28th, 1961, the appellant described his many years of experience as a salesman and businessman. Within the experience of the appellant, he must know that some of the participants in the sales plan would receive nothing and be stuck with 5 ballpoint pens. Since a ballpoint pen is the product to be sold, it should be within the knowledge of the appellant that the ballpoint pen is a very common commodity nowadays, which is available in stores, drugstores, and is distributed by people in all kinds of campaigns. With this in mind, the appellant represents his sales plan to amass large sums of money upon an investment of nothing more than $5. Such representations by a man of the sales and business experience admitted to by the appellant shows a fraudulent intent, which may be inferred from his obvious awareness of facts to the contrary, and so on. So it is the opinion of the judicial officer that the appellant is engaged in a fraud and a lottery in violation of U.S. codes, etc., etc., etc. The order of April 20th, and these dates are quite interesting, is hereby affirmed to become effective 30 days, during which the period the mail for the appellant, 10 Penn Sales Corporation, shall continue to be impounded by the postmasters at Charleston, South Carolina, and St. Petersburg, Florida. It is further ordered that if the appellant files suit in the U.S. District Court, the mail shall be impounded until further order by the court of the judicial officer. Now, there's a couple dates here. April 28, April 20. I think those are the 2 ones. If we go back to that envelope, see if I can do this. Yeah, nope, that's the letter. Yeah, there we go. Let me expand that one. Seems like too many things on my screen. Okay, look at the date, April 28. And the reverse actually tells me it's at 1961. So it's right in the middle of all this. The mail is being impounded. And in this case, rather than just ending up in the hands of the Postal Service, it was returned to the sender. Well, absolutely fascinating. And you know, any of you who actually run into other examples of this lottery mail hand stamp, The Postal Service does have a complete database of all their judicial decisions. So you can, like I did, you can trace the rest of the story about that particular marking. Anyway, that's my little show and tell for this evening. Stop sharing here.
Thank you.
Greg, you're muted.
What's that?
Sorry, I said, Roger, do you want to go next?
Sure.
Okay.
I have a PowerPoint. Do you have to host me in order for me to do that, or just do a share screen?
I think you can just share screen.
Hold on. Let's see if I can find this. How's that?
Excellent.
So let me just see if I click on the PowerPoint itself. Can you see that?
There you
Yeah.
go. Yep.
Great.
Okay, so it appeared just a few minutes before we came on, I looked on my computer and it appeared that I gave a brief presentation. I think there are about 12 covers, which I can run through pretty quickly. Looks like I gave a presentation about 5 years ago to Act Nojex in New Jersey on behalf of the Collectors Club. So let me see if I can just move along here. Basically, we'll get to this cover in a moment. Let's see. Okay, the first cover. Can you see the burnt out 62? Do you see the cover?
Oh.
I just want to be sure. Are you seeing the cover? I just want to be
Yes.
sure you.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay. All right. So this cover was mailed from Fresno, California to San Francisco shortly after the Great San Francisco Fire. And the marking on here is burnt out 62. I'm not quite sure what the 62 is, but we know this was never delivered because the recipient no longer existed in that particular location.
Oh.
The next one is a mail marking received in bad condition by reason of mail pouch being run over by train in Waltham, Massachusetts. I don't think I've seen one of these before. Now, all of these covers are probably from my collection of the 1902 series, but they may we may pop up with one cover that's not among that group. The next one is received without contents. Apparently, at the station, what do you call the exchange station, before it went over to Panama, they caught the fact that it was an empty envelope, and I don't think I've ever seen this particular auxiliary marking in the past. Let's see what we have here. Here's Ralph had shown one of these, not delivered for want of time. In the postal laws and regulations, no carrier could be scheduled for more work than he can perform in 8 hours, and that was under Section 746 of the PLNR of 1902. The next one is outside delivery limits. These are special delivery. Special delivery service afforded immediate delivery within the carrier delivery limit of any free delivery office or within 1 mile of any other designated special delivery post office. Letters delivered beyond these limits were marked and dispatched with regular mail based upon the Section 762 of the postal laws. So here we have two different markings, one outside delivery limits and the other one no duties performed for the same reason. The next one is a very interesting one. This letter adhered to one addressed to Elizabeth, New Jersey. It's double stamped on two sides. Basically, this postcard sent from Chicago was stuck behind other mail that was addressed to Elizabeth, New Jersey, but the postcard itself was originally addressed to Fargo, North Dakota, and put in the mail and eventually sent. here we have received with package box collection. In other words, here's two postcards. Well, I guess a letter, no, two postcards that were dropped in the wrong mailbox. There were separate mailboxes for third and fourth class mail because they were going to be handled differently. But unfortunately, they were dropped on the wrong one, and the marks are received on the top right, received with a package box collection, and on the bottom left, mail in package box with third and fourth class matter. The next one is received unsealed. Matter of the first class received at any post office unsealed or in a mutilated or otherwise bad condition must be stamped or marked noting cause and be officially sealed before delivery. So, this was an era when the post office was a lot more conscious about how they delivered their mail. Obviously, we live in an environment now where they don't even bother canceling stamps, but they were very concerned about identifying why mail was either received in bad order, et cetera, et cetera. The next one is received in Lincoln, Nebraska, undercover from the post office at, can't even read it, but here's another picture postcard. Where is it?
Allentown.
Allentown. Oh, you're right, Allentown. We don't know whether that Allentown, PA. Absolutely correct. My wife went to college in Allentown, Pennsylvania. That's an aside. Has nothing to do with the cover. The next one is important to avoid delivery and errors in delivery. Advise your correspondence and publisher that your mail should be addressed to. This was a RFD delivery, and obviously insufficient address. So they put this. I've never seen this particular marking before as well. So here's what we started with. Here's a registered special delivery cover that was put in the regular mailbox. Now, in order for this, if we want to send registered mail, in those days as well as today, you had to take it to the post office and have it obviously put under registry control. So this was found in a regular mailbox or regular mail depository. So they did not receive the registered delivery, but they did receive the special delivery, which is indicated by the fee claimed at office of first address. And that might, here's another one. Here's delivery delayed owing to French post office strike. Not uncommon type of markings whenever there's an international strike. You'll find that with just about every different era of U.S. postage. And finally, this is one of my favorites. This mail was inadvertently left in the mail bag, which was returned to Washington, D.C. So we have received from Mailbag Storehouse in Washington. And you've got it all.
That's a wonderful one, Roger. And I'm familiar with the found in a supposedly empty mailbag marking, but I've never seen this marking before.
I no longer own any of these covers, but I had a good time. Next time we meet, I'll have covers from a little bit more modern era, but I think this is enough for me.
Yeah, a thought that strikes me about this marking and also the one about this, the postcard was stuck to a thing. These weren't one-off incidents, occasions. There must have been enough of this thing happening that somebody actually created a hand stamp.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that the stuck to problem is one that we continue to get to the present day. The post office never recognizes it, but in my detailed studies of zip codes, barcodes on envelopes, when I see an envelope that is wildly misbarcoded, you know, the completely wrong state and everything, it tells me it was originally stuck to something else. They're usually window envelopes, and usually the window catches another envelope and the two of them double feed. So the top one is red, and then the tracking codes on the back of the back one, which subsequently gets barcoded with the front envelope's address. So that continues, but the post office never explains it. If you're really lucky in your informed mail delivery, you will actually see the two envelopes stuck together when they went through the feeder. So you've got documentary proof it happened.
Yes.
Ah, the joys of postal technology.
Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof. I know we just had I'm on the Civil War Philatelic Society Authentication Service, and we're returning a Confederate envelope to a submitter, and I was priority mail certified, 47 days in transit.
Oh,
And we were just about to file with our insurance company because the envelope was 5 figures. And
wow.
yeah, and then just as I'm about to talk to the insurance company, the recipient says, it came 47 days.
Well, I mailed some savings bonds to the Treasury recently, certified mail, and it took 8 days to get from our house in Bethel, Connecticut to White Plains, New York, which is the hub that serves our house. And the interest on that envelope was very significant. Fortunately, the interest accumulates on a bond, whether it's in transit or whether it's there. But it was pretty crazy.
You could probably walk there in less than 8 days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Probably walk there in three or 4 days.
Yeah. It was 8 days to get to the hub, and then it was another 5 days to get to them. And I forgot where they were, Pennsylvania, maybe. I don't remember wherever the Treasury, St. Louis, but anyhow, it took 2 weeks to get to them.
Amazing. Does anybody else have anything they want to share?
I've got a couple of covers, Greg.
Sure. Thanks, Tom.
Now I'm very new at this, so all the comments will be appreciated. Just recently, I mailed about 60 covers to a mailing list, and several came back, and they all came back with this usually RTS, not here. I had 2 that said dead, but this one I totally don't understand. I mean, they put the sticker on, which is fine, return to sender, and I made very clear that, you know, please return to me with my address, and the address is totally correct. I don't know why they would say, please advise your correspondence of your correct postal address. So, as if it was for this John guy, not for me. So, and this is April 5th when it got canceled. So this is new. This is really, really new.
Huh.
That is a message. The message is to John, not to you.
Right.
And so what's happened is John moved. He did not leave a forwarding address, or it expired ages ago. But they stamped that when they knew that he was no longer at this address. They stamped, please advise your correspondence. But then it turns out that there is no new address available. So I think that that message is just before they put the yellow label on, they didn't know that they had no new address.
There are 2 yellow labels, and I tried to peel the top one off, but it is very difficult. So I'll try and do that again with an X-Acto knife. Maybe there was somebody else. Maybe there was another address there. I don't know.
Oh, that's a good guess, that was the forwarding address, and subsequently he moved again and left nothing.
Yeah, so that was very interesting. Now, I just got these, and I never heard of Miss Sent To, and I just saw it on one of the eBay auctions, and I found it very interesting. So it went from New Island and was supposed to go to New York, and it got missent to Samoa.
Wow.
Now, so that's 22 hours and 35 minutes by flight. And of course, it was supposed to go somewhere up here. And I guess it got there eventually. There's nothing on the back, no receiver. And
Well, the
Mr.
lower left does say it was is Grand Central Station.
Oh yeah, there, yes, you're right.
So it definitely got to New York, New York.
So this chap got his first day cover from you. And so and the next one is that I just got was this misdirected, return to writer, Chicago Post Office. Again, quite interesting. Like I said, it's new, and I really enjoy the hands, so I'm kind of looking out for those.
Mhm.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you everybody for this. This has been really interesting tonight, and my sense is that if you were to be polled, we need John Hotchner to send one of his polls out. If you were to be polled, you would say that you like the show and tell concept. Yes.
Yes.
Good. Okay. All right. So
So
good. So we'll try and do. We'll try and make this a regular part of this. With some other topics in there as well. So, but anyway, thank you very much. I'm going to stop the recording. So, thank you everybody for coming tonight, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.